The less land you have, the more expensive your product has to be. That's what this one's all about, coming up today on Modern Grower. Hello, growers. I'm Diego D-I-E-G-O, and for the past 10 plus years, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of farmers on my various podcasts, such as Farm Small, Farm Smart, and I've learned a ton from them along the way about what's made them succeed and what's made them fail. In this video series on this channel, I'm trying to distill down everything I learned from them and share it with you to hopefully make your farming journey a little bit easier. And today, we're going to continue our series on Curtis Stone's crop value rating system. If you're new here, go back and watch the previous two videos. But essentially, what this crop value rating system is, it's a way to think about crops you might want to grow on your farm. And you can score them using various criterion. The more points a crop gets, the more likely or the stronger you should consider growing it on your farm. Today, we're on criterion number 3. That's a high dollar value per pound. When you're on a limited land base, you don't have a lot of land to screw around with. So you need to get as much money as you can for every product that you sell, which means you have to grow the highest valuable possible crops. I totally messed that up. You have to get the highest, you have to sell the crops for the highest possible value that you can. That's the TLDR. You want to turn the video off now? Go for it. Sell high value, high dollar per pound crops on limited land to increase your chances of making money. Obviously, you have to sell it. Obviously, this isn't a guarantee. But if you want to play, this is the barrier that you have to hit. It's like you have to be able to hit a three-pointer in today's NBA. You can't go out there, be tall, and just clog up space. You need to be able to stretch the floor, hit threes, and this is one thing you're going to have to do. When Curtis wrote this is back in 2016. He developed the crop value rating system, and a lot's changed in the world in the past 8 years. For one, we've had inflation since COVID. The government's issued a lot of money. Costs have gone up. So keep in mind some of the numbers we're using here that he put forward around this $4 per pound number. It could be dated, but it could be accurate. So check your local markets carefully. Because the baseline rule when you're evaluating crops to sell is I should be able to sell the crop for at least $4 a pound. If I could sell it for $4 a pound or higher, check. High dollar per pound gets a +1 next to it in my crop value rating system. This price point ensures that the revenue from that crop covers all the costs that went into it: seed, bed prep, labor, and sales. Now, crops that meet or exceed this $4 threshold are more likely to be profitable, assuming you don't have costs to go up with them, and they should be prioritized in crop planning. The higher the price per pound, the greater the possible profit margin. This doesn't mean you should just sell high dollar crops. That doesn't mean you can sell high dollar crops in your market. But it's saying when you evaluate potential crops that you could sell into your market, you want to prioritize ones that carry the highest dollar value per pound, because that offers the most profit margin. In general, costs don't go up relative to price. So for example, let's say you could sell a low value per pound product like pumpkins, and you could sell a high value per pound product like cherry tomatoes. Your cost to grow those cherry tomatoes isn't the same. It's not relative. It didn't increase as much as the price. So if you're selling If you're selling pumpkins at $2 a pound, let's say you're selling cherry tomatoes at $8, that's 4 times more for cherry tomatoes. Well, your cost didn't go up 4 times as much. That's why we say there's a greater potential profit margin on high dollar per pound crops. I'm sorry, I'm struggling talking today, so just bear with me. That's why we want to go after those high dollar per pound crops, because they outpace our cost escalation. So for example, right here, if crop sells for $6 instead of $4, that's 50% more revenue per pound. If you apply this over thousands and thousands of pounds over the course of a season, that adds up to be a lot. And this could be as simple as we're selling our products for $3 a pound. Can we push it to $4? It might be a pricing thing. It might not be you need to change the crops you grow. Maybe you can adjust your pricing and realize that much more in profits. Because if you're profitable at 3 and you tack on $1 and you can sell just as much or close, that's free profits to you. Now, low value crops, in this case, meaning under $4 per pound, they're not necessarily unprofitable, but they are potentially lower priority, and they fulfill other criteria in our market farm planning scheme here. If there's a lot of demand for them, if it's a niche crop, if it's something your customers really want, if it helps diversify your production, if it's really easy to grow, if it's passive, that type of thing, then they might be worth growing. But you have to analyze those much more carefully. The goal of this exercise and the goal of the whole CVR is if I have my seed catalog and I'm flipping through it, I'm trying to take a list of 70 crops that I could grow and distill that down to 15. I have to have reasons to cut out those other 55. And this is one of the reasons. I can't sell it for enough. There are a lot of benefits of higher value crops, and let's look at those. Higher revenue, higher profitability. As I said before, cost doesn't necessarily go up as quickly as price does. So you're going to bring in more revenue and likely more profit with higher value crops. You're going to improve your cash flow. This brings in more cash. If I'm taking in more at the market every week because my prices are higher, cash flow is improved, and that helps. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. It's how you pay bills. It's how you pay vendors. It's how you reinvest in the business. The more cash flow we can get going through the business, the more positive effects it has. There can be greater flexibility in pricing. Let's think about this. If I can price tomatoes early in the season at $6.50 a pound, and I don't think that's a crazy number. At my local farmer's market here in Southern California, I saw somebody selling cherry tomatoes for $6.50 a pound. So a real number. If they became overproduced in the middle of summer when everybody has them, then I have the potential to drop my price down some if I have a glut and I need to move them. So I could sell them for a premium early in the season or late in the season when no one else has them. And I have room to go down when everybody else does have them. That's a lot harder to do if you're pricing lower. You don't have the margin. Margin is simply what I'm selling it for, what my costs are, the difference between the two, that's margin. The thinner that margin is, the less wiggle room I have on price. It also gives me flexibility to price to chefs, wholesalers, restaurants. If I'm selling retail at $6.50 a pound and I'm making good money doing it, I can maybe sell to chefs at $4.50 a pound and make money. And maybe my retail sales help subsidize some of those chef sales. So I have room. When you compress margins, you eliminate your flexibility in any business, my tool business, my seed business, your farm business. Thin margins make it much harder to operate. So you want to ideally sell high value crops to get those margins up. It's a better return on investment. That's really what we're trying to do in business. We're trying to put $1 in and get well over $1 back. When we grow a crop, we have to invest seed, amendments, water, human power, or the labor, which has a cost, time. There's the opportunity cost of using that bed. There's harvest labor and packaging. We want to get as high of a return on all those costs as we can. And if we have to choose between crops, we choose the highest returners. This would be no different if you were evaluating a stock portfolio. If and it was only, let's say, based on dividends and you didn't care about capital gains, well, take the highest yielding dividend companies and go from there. You're trying to get the most you can. It's the same thing in the NFL or the NBA, the highest return on investment. You want the best contract and the most performance you can get out of that contract. You don't want a Ben Simmons or, oh my God, you do not want Joe Flacco. Sorry, Cleveland. I'm sorry. You do want Joe Flacco. You don't want Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry, Cleveland, you are stuck with him. Welcome back to the factory of sadness by the lake. Usually higher value crops, they are perceived as more premium because of the cost. They maybe give you some differentiation versus commodity crops. For example, when I went to the farmer's market this weekend, a lot of people have just red tomatoes. So I can get tomatoes from anybody's booth. And to be honest, can I really tell a difference between any of them? Probably not. But if I grow something that's striped or a different size or a unique shape, it helps set me apart and maybe I can get a premium for that. It maximizes space efficiency. This is critically important for market farmers. Market farmers are limited by land size. That's why we're talking about all of this. They're also usually limited by a season unless they're in Southern California or have a lot of season extensions. So you are constrained by time and by space. You have to maximize the growing time that you have over the space that you have. So get as much of that crop out there as you can and sell it for as high of possible value as you can. You want to target higher end markets ideally to do this. So it's not just saying, let's charge a high retail price, but let's try and get into the market that can pay an even higher retail price. And it increases your brand value. People do associate quality, perceived quality, I should say, brand, the premium feel of a brand by the price. Whether it is or not, doesn't matter. People assume that stuff that costs more is made better, it tastes better, and it'll last longer. Not always true, but that's how price messes with our brain. $4 a pound, you might think that's a lot. And it's not. When you start to look at average U.S. retail prices for organic vegetables, $4 per pound is somewhere around the average price point. So this is numbers I pulled putting this slide together. There are some bunch numbers here, but on the cheap end, you have organic carrots down around $1.50, all the way up through okra organic at $6.75. This can all vary by market, and it helps give you a feel. If you're looking at this chart, which you can see up here, yes, I got it right this time. Organic onions for 87 cents a pound might not be something that you want to do in limited land. Now, if you were a market farmer that had your intensive area of the farm that you farmed with higher value crops, and you had another acre that you wanted to put into things like onion and sell that and mechanize that, use tractor culture or something. Okay, I get it. But trying to grow onions, regular size onion, not scallions or green onions, on an eighth of an acre or half an acre, it doesn't make sense at 87 cents a pound. If you had to grow onions, like gun to your head, I gotta grow onions. Well, if you looked at this chart, you'd grow red over yellow because they get around $1 more a pound just by simply changing the color. If there's cauliflower versus purple cauliflower, look at that. 85 cents or so more just by being purple. Same crop. So you have some variability here. When you think about this and you look at your local market and think about the crops people value, okra in the South, some regions might value things like kohlrabi or other root vegetables in the Midwest. Out here, it could be things like peppers and tomatoes because people want to make salsa. Find the types of crops people in your market want, and then what within that niche do you think you can sell for a premium? Besides just seasonality. Now that is another factor here, right? Because if we harvest stuff early in the season before everybody has it, that allows us to push our cost, our price up, and potentially increase profits. That's why season extension becomes important. But that's another video. So here are some examples of doing this exercise, crops beating the $4 per pound criterion. Now, there is a demand constraint in every market. I want to make that abundantly clear. High dollar per pound value crops doesn't mean you can sell as much of them as you want. Microgreens are a great example. Very profitable, very high dollar value per pound. But you may have limited market demand. The market is it's inelastic at some point. You can't push more into it. So you can't just focus on high dollar value per pound. Another great example that's becoming real popular are edible flowers. You can sell them for very high dollar amounts, but you're not moving a large volume. You're selling 1,000 times more salad mix than you are edible flowers. So you can't just focus in on the high dollar value per pound. You also have to say, can I sell enough of it to matter? I'm sure we could all look through a catalog and find these really unique crops. But keep in mind, you have to say, can I sell a bed's worth every week, every 2 weeks, throughout the course of that crop's growing season? And if you can't, it's not worth growing. So be careful just chasing high dollar value per pound because it might not fit into your market. So microgreens, $20 to $40 per pound is not uncommon. You can grow a single rack with 16 10-20 trays, which is around 18 pounds of sunflower shoots per week. And every unit, if you sold every unit for $12, you'd generate $720 a week off a grow rack that's 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and 6 feet high. $720. And you're like, yes, fill me up, like fill the whole room with those, and we're going to grow hundreds and hundreds of trays a week. Awesome if you can sell it all. And some people can. I talked to a lot of microgreen growers on the Growing Microgreen podcast, which you can listen to wherever podcasts are found or on this YouTube channel. And many of them do sell 400 to 1,000 trays a week. but it took them time to build that market up. You're not going to start there. So this looks really attractive. Wow, $720 up one single rack of microgreens growing sunflowers. Let's do it. But you do have to sell it. That's 60 units, individual units, at 140 grams per unit per week. That's a lot of stuff to move. Salad greens are another example. They frequently sell for $10 to $16 a pound. I talked to somebody recently on the Farm Small, Farm Smart, I think, or Carrot Cash Flow, and they were selling them for like $32 a pound. I don't believe they were in the US. It was another country, but I was shocked and people were buying it. And this high price point is why salad mix is usually a huge economic driver for most market farms. Most market farms, one of their top 3 crops by far is salad mix. People like it. People know what it is. People are willing to pay a premium for it because it's local and high quality. A lot of farmers don't grow it. Again, at my farmer's market I went to this weekend, I looked around. A lot of people are selling head lettuce, but nobody's selling salad mix. So salad mix usually sells for a nice price. Growing it consistently can be challenging. For more information on that, see Ray Tyler and his amazing course and book on lettuce growing. There's also a podcast series I did with Ray about lettuce growing right here on this YouTube channel. Check that out. Herbs are another example, $10 to $12 per pound. Keep in mind the average person is not buying a pound of basil or a pound of cilantro at a time. And when you start to pile this stuff up and weigh it in front of you, you realize, oh, there's actually a lot of this crop here. So just because you think I could sell it for $10 to $12 a pound, that's true. But an individual bunch might only be selling for $3 a bunch. And then you can take that and sell a bunch of bunches to people to get up to that pound. Heirloom tomatoes sell for higher. I said I saw them at $6.50. I think the lowest I saw them was $3. So ubiquitous crops that are common, or crops that everybody has, it's going to push the price down. And edible flowers. Here's the example. Well over $15 a pound, $50 per pound dried. Though they're very light, they're small. You're selling these tiny little things. You're going to have a million little petals in there to get to your 1 pound weight. And likely no bakery or bar is buying pounds at a time. So it's a niche crop, but it's one that does work. Given this, how do you start thinking about the optimum crop mix? I've stressed in this video, don't just chase the high dollar value per pound because you might not be able to sell it all. You really don't just want one crop. Most farms can't succeed just selling 1 or 2 crops. They usually need a variety because any one customer can only buy so much of a given crop. Meaning, if somebody comes to your farmer's market booth, one person can only uptake so much microgreens a week. And eventually they're like, I'm not buying anymore. But if you had carrots, I would buy those too. If you had radishes, I would buy those too. If you had something else, I would buy that too. So you add other things to your market booth to try and increase the average order value. Some, like edible flowers, can be the icing on a cake. You can't build a whole business around them, or at least most people can't. There's probably somebody doing it. You should consider your market demand, your farm's capabilities, your infrastructure, your climate, your skills also play a part. Not every premium crop, high dollar value per pound crop, is appropriate for every farm. You do have to be able to grow these things. That's the other key here. If there's a crop here that you struggle with or will struggle in your climate, then it's going to kick it off the list. High value per pound means nothing if you can't get said product to the market in premium condition. Too hot, my lettuce bolts, it's bitter, nobody wants it. Out of here. Too early in the season, I don't have the season extension equipment on my farm to grow it. Can't do it. I don't have enough labor. I can't grow cherry tomatoes because it's too much picking and trellising. Don't grow it. Like, this all has to fit and work together. We're just trying to wean down the list and get rid of stuff with the high value per pound. You do want to experiment. You do want to try things. You definitely want to track numbers. This is where you might think you can sell it at a high dollar value per pound, and your estimate might be too high or too low. So every market, you want to know how much you're taking, how much you sell, and at what price. What were the comments? Were people reacting to the price? Like saying, ooh, expensive. I don't want to buy this. Why do you charge so much? Which can be a good thing if you get a few people asking that. Or are they just buying it without asking? Maybe it's too cheap. So you're going to need to take notes. These are starting points, not gospel. So prioritize high value crops when you're initially building out your farm plan. Look at those when you're deciding, I have 50 beds. What am I going to put in each one of them? What are the high value crops? I'm looking at this Johnny Seed catalog and oh man, all these plants are looking so sexy. I feel like I'm 14 again and I found something hidden under a box in the garage. Use the crops that have the high dollar value per pound to start as a point of reference. It's not an absolute rule. Some lower price crops do make sense and are needed to be a successful farm business owner. I hope this criterion number 3 from the crop value rating system really helps you out. I apologize in this one. I'm a little bit stumbly here. I know I haven't been drinking, and I hope the message came across. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below. If you want more videos like this, let me know, or you can follow me on Instagram at Diego Footer. Thank you so much for watching this. More on the crop value rating system in the next video. But until then, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.